Hello and welcome to Qedit tutorial part number 0. This part's going to differ a little bit because it's going to go over just the Qedit base functionality, whereas other parts that come after this were recorded way before this and kind of go more into detail in specific things and how to do scripting and how to do various other functionalities. This is going to be a very base coverage of just what has been added in the recent months. This is being recorded October 23rd, 2025. So anything that's coming after this will not be covered in this video. So to jump right into it, in your quest menu here, you can just determine what episode the quest is going to be. So if you don't want an episode 1 quest, which is what this is currently set to, you can just hit new and go to episode 2. We do not need to save this. And you have all your episode 2 areas. Basic enough. From here, you have your load quest and you can save your quest. Language, this is the language that Qedit is set to. The only options are English, French, and Spanish. I don't speak French and I only know a little Spanish, so I'm going to keep it in English. And then you have quit, which just closes the program. Very basic stuff. Properties, you can set your quest title here. Information, you can write the quest information. Like this is the first information window when you're scrolling in quests in the quest menu online. Description, this is the quest description. When you actually go to select a quest, it displays that other menu. That's what that is. Settings, this is the language setting in the quest. You can actually just leave this as Korean and Japanese. It doesn't really affect too much when you're making a quest. Quest number, you will need to fill out if you're offering the quest for download, or some servers might require this. You'd have to contact the admin and ask them. And then floor filter, I've really never messed with this, so you can just leave it alone. Script, this is where you're doing your scripting. This is covered in later videos, but basically this just opens the script menu. We can actually load Lost Heat Sword just to have something to look at. There we go. Lost Heat Sword. So here you go. You have the whole script to look at here. Not really going to go into it too much. There is something new though with the scripting called text editor. You can either hit this button or you can hit Alt X on your keyboard, and that'll open a new scripting menu where you can freely type in this thing. Very neat. This will save you a lot of time if you know how to type an opcode. So let's say you wanted to type an opcode called set, which basically just sets a register. If you look at the bottom here, it'll tell you what you need to type. So it's set and then a register, so 50. And you'll know it's correct because the text will be yellow. If you don't happen to know like what it is, you can just hit enter and it'll put it in for you with a default register, and then you can set whatever register you need to for the opcode. If you wanted to do something more complicated like get vector and from path, it's going to do the entire thing if you just hit enter. So it's useful, but for an opcode like this, it is more helpful to use the other scripting so you can actually set the hex more easily, and you can enter the data that you need. I'll delete that for now. What else? Export. So if you want to export this entire script and you put it in a file called PASM, you can later take this script and import it into another quest that you have, what I would suggest is you could do that, or you could hit Alt X and you can copy and paste freely on this page. So you can open up a second Qedit if you wanted, just to show it as an example. Let's say you wanted to copy this function 0 and function 1 for whatever reason. You can open up another Qedit, a text editor, and you can copy, and then you can paste right in here, and boom, you have the free power to control, to copy and paste whatever script you want. So very useful. And then when you close the window, if you put in new script, if you close the text editor, don't worry, it'll save your stuff. It'll, you just don't worry about that. I'm not going to save this. But this is very useful to a beginner quest and an expert quest maker too. So I'm adding this in post, but a couple things I forgot to mention in this text editor. You have different search options, and the search bar appears down here if you click this search button up here. Additionally, you can also just hit Control F. So if you want to find a specific function number, like say 300, which doesn't exist in this quest, but if you want to find function 161, you can just search it and it'll show up right away, which is convenient, especially if you have a larger script. You can also do search and replace. And you can also go to a label manually or go to a line in the script. The line is displayed on the bottom here. Next, you can also change the font of the script here. So obviously you have a bunch of options here. You can also change the size. You can also change the text color. So the labels are the function numbers. So if you want to make a bluish color, there you go. You can also change the opcode, which is the LEDI or map designate in this case, so just to demonstrate. You can make it pink. It's kind of wild looking. You can also change the theme. Alisarn has included a bunch of different themes for this, so you can obviously use the default. You can also use a bunch of different other themes here. So there you go. I want my font back. Whoa. So yeah, I haven't really messed with this. This is kind of a newer feature. So this is what it looks like. What else do we have? And you can also default to formatting. So there you go. And you can also zoom in and make the script really large if you have a reason to make it big. So I want my visuals. Which one was it that I had? I think I had, nope, not that one. I can't remember which theme I even had to begin with. Here we go. That's the theme I originally had. Alright, so you can do all that. Really nice. There's also a new notes section here. Now, the notes will get saved in your quest editor folder, and it will be saved by the title name of the quest. Not the file name, but the actual title. So, to demonstrate this, I actually have a quest that I have notes with. I think it's this one. Yeah. So as you can see, I have a bunch of notes written in here, and basically all the notes are saved in a text file. So I can navigate to that real quick. If you go to your quest editor folder, wherever you keep it, you should have a section in here called notes. probably on the bottom. Here it is. Notes. And then there are the notes. So this is a really nice thing if you have especially a very large script or multiple authors on a quest. You can send your quest file as well as your notes file. It's really, really nice to have. Additionally, you have an opcode list here, which just opens the Qedit page. Typical register uses, this also opens a Qedit page. And common functions, this is just example functions that are often used in quests. You can also hide the notes section. Another important thing that is in this text editor is if you right click, you can set the argument format, so you can make it either hex or normal numbers, as in decimal. So if you hit this, you'll have to keep in mind that it'll ask you if you want to do this. It will cancel any unsaved changes. So you want to make sure you save your quest file before you even do this. I haven't made any changes, so this is fine. So if you notice, the D also, they changed to a 13. D is 13 in hex. So yeah, you have all this really interesting stuff here. I don't personally use this, but for people who are allergic to hex, this is a really nice option for them. So you can see all the Meseta values here are in decimal. So this is a 2000, because it says 2000. This is 4000. You have 4000 here. So just keep in mind, this only supports up to 8-digit numbers. So yeah. So you have that as an option. I'm going to change it back to hex because, yeah, that's what I prefer. And then you also have a prepend Letty Fletty arguments. So what this does is, let's say you need to use an opcode that has multiple inputs. So let's say you need to make a camera. So there's the standard camera that most people use for most applications. It's called Letty Fixed Camera V3. Oh, that's not right. Letty Fixed. Let's type that again. Now if you hit enter on this, it'll actually put all of the Lettys that you need here. So just keep that in mind. But you will need to type it out fully if you want the proper registers. So let's do this again. Letty Fixed Camera V3, and then do R60, which is what most people use. And then there you go. It has all the correct registers for you, and then you enter whatever values you need. So this is really nice. It also works with floats as well. So there's also Fletty Fixed Camera. And we can do this. And it puts all your floats in here. I renamed Fletty on my script because of typing it, it was easier. I might change it back now that you can free type this. So yeah, this is also a very useful feature. Is there anything else here? This concludes everything in the text editor. So import and export, a little outdated, but you can still use them. Export text from translation. So let's say you wanted to translate this quest into a different language other than English. So this quest is obviously in English. If you export this text, and let's just say text file, let's just say test LHS. Now we can open this. There you go. You have all of the text from the entire quest here. Now what a translator can do is they can just translate line for line, what they need in the other language that you want. I mean, for GameCube, you only have 5 languages, so it's English, Spanish, French, German, and Japanese. When you're doing this translations, you want to make sure that the file that you get back from them is the same number of lines. So make sure nothing gets broken up, because otherwise the import won't go in here properly. It'll be all mismatched and it'll give you a gigantic headache. Next, we covered both of these. Sort. You can sort the order of the monsters and the objects if you're really looking for something specifically. So let's say you want to sort the monsters by type. Do you see how the monsters are all kind of all over the place in the menu here? So you want to sort monsters and you can do it by type. So you have all your monists on top, and then you have your wolves, and then you have your boomas and gigaboomas. These are all out of order because booma is considered the same. Booma, gigabooma, and gobooma are considered the same type of a monster. They're just kind of subtypes of each other, which is how Sega handled it. So that's why those are like that. You can additionally just sort them by room as well. If I'm not mistaken, it'll sort them by lowest room number to highest room number. So this is map section 2. And then you have 4. And then you have 5. I'm reading this from here. 7, 10, so on and so forth. You get the idea. And you can sort your objects as well. Same thing, type or by room. Just keep in mind that if you sort this and then you go to save it, the monsters are going to be in this order when you go to reload it. So you may or may not want that. So if you're not looking for that, reload the quest without saving it, and it'll be in the order that it was in before you sorted it. You can export floor data here and also import it. So this is actually very useful, and something was added recently to this. So let's do a new Qedit file. We don't need to save. Yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, so let's say you wanted to put the dragon in here, but you don't want to place anything manually. You can hit import data, and let's say you only want the monster. So I exported this dragon earlier from Lost Heat Sword. Importing it will allow you to just put the dragon immediately in the spot that Sega puts it in. Now let's say I wanted to add some objects. I put a box over here. I put a box over here. And I put another box over here. But then I'm like, wait a minute. I want the default objects as well, but I don't want to clear my selection. Well, a new feature is in here called Import Floor Data. Append Objects. What this will allow you to do is add objects from another floor data that you've exported, but also keep the ones that you've added already. So you see all the boxes and the player sets and the collision. These are all added, but it also kept my 3 boxes that I added. So you can do this with a different floor, because when you go to export like doors and stuff like that, sometimes they're placed in very specific spots. So more often than not, you want to use a template that Sega had already made for this floor, and just take the doors from it, and then you can put your objects in it. It'll end up saving you a ton of time. Just to give you an idea of what this looks like to export, real quick, we'll go back to LHS, and let's say I want to take all the objects that are from Forest 2, because Forest has a bunch of weird quirks with targeting, which I'm not going to go into in this video. We did cover that in a different video. So export floor data. all chunk will export the objects, the monsters, and the events. We'll go over events in a little bit. So we want objects only. And we can save it as forest to objects. Now let's say I want to make a new quest, episode 1, forest. Now we can import the objects we just exported. There we go. We have all the doors, we have all the object room IDs, so on and so forth. So this is a very useful tool. What's next? Events. You can either go to floor and then hit events from here, or you can hit view map event on the left side here. It does the same thing. So let's go to a new quest. Interesting. So for some reason it saves the previous data. So I think what we're going to do is just open a new Qedit, just so we can have a clear thing. We'll keep this one open just in case we need it. Oh, crud. All right. So your events, this is how your monsters get called. So let's say you want the player to spawn monsters in this room right here. Okay. You're going to need something called an event collision. So you go to add object, event collision, place this here, and then you make event number, it can't be 0, so it's got to be above 0. It can be pretty much any number. The number is arbitrary. Hit number 1, hit 1. Okay, so this means that when the player walks into this little circle, they're going to spawn event number 1. And this is room number, oh, this is not a good example. This is, let's just say this is room number 15 here. Now you need to do this in here, number 1, section 15, wave 1. Delay is in frames, so let's just say after they walk into it, it takes 30 frames to spawn a Booma here. Just a simple old Booma. We made it wave 1, so let's make it consistent. And there we go, it'll spawn this Booma. Alright, that's the basics of summoning a monster. I'm not going to go into how to do this. This is covered in a later video. Export floor data and import floor data, we already did that. The random monster data tab you see here is strictly for challenge mode. It is not usable in free mode. We're not going to go over that here. Add monster, very straightforward. It already puts the list of monsters that you're allowed to place in this area. Add object, same thing. It only lists the objects that are available in this area. Those are controlled by external files that are in the Quest Editor folder. Delete, I think everyone knows what that does. Edit data, you can hit this button to edit the data of the event collision, or you can double click on it on the map, or you can double click on it on the top here. Same thing with monsters. You can double click the monster. You can double click on the map, or you can hit edit data on here. For placing monsters, you have different options here now as well. So you could do drag to move. So let's say you wanted to move this Booma, you can move it by dragging. You click and then drag. I don't personally use this, so I'm going to turn it off. This is accessed by right-clicking anywhere on the map. You also have something called placement options. You can make the monsters placed in specific places if you don't want them too close, or you want them kind of in a separate, in like kind of like a column or a row. You can make it so that, oops, you can make it so that they're only placed, they have to be placed 10 x units apart. So let's save that. So let's say we add more boomas. But we move it, we can move it as close as we can move it close, but we're never going to be able to place it right on top. That's basically what this does. So you can offset it. The snap options, this makes it so that you can match their rotation when you're placing them. So when you go into this changes the direction that the monster is facing. This auto axis basically will make it so that when you click on this wheel, it will automatically go to the immediate degrees, like 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, so on and so forth. So it makes it easier to get the exact direction that you want them to face. Because otherwise you'll be clicking on here forever trying to get them the correct direction. Additionally, you can also change it here if you know the rotation value. It's based on basically every 16,384 units is 90 degrees. So you can do math if you want. What else? Additionally, you can move a monster this way, or if you wanted to copy and paste a monster, it copies the exact wave number, so just keep that in mind. So you hit move, hit control on your keyboard, and then start clicking. See, you can place them very quickly. So that is something that's useful. You can also just right click and do monsters on this. You can do items. You can also copy last monster from here. And it also gives you some shortcuts to use as well. Here you can sort enemies by wave number. So if you wanted to look at a specific wave, and on much bigger quests you'll have much more waves to look from. You can look at either, if you want to just clear it, just look at wave 0. If you want to look at all your monsters you placed, let's change some of these just to show it. You gotta change both of these to change the wave number. Okay, so now we should have wave 2 here. Yep. See, the 3 monsters I just changed show up here now. And if I change this back to wave 1, those 3 monsters will disappear. So this is useful if you want to look at a specific wave. And then you have an undo button here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let's say you want to look at the coordinates right here. A little hard to see. Well, fortunately, if you right click here, you can make them bigger. So that's really nice. Additionally, I didn't really explain this, but if you want to move around the map, you can just right click and drag. You also can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. Next, we have the tool section. Quest Files Manager. This is more so if you're saving a file to the quest. On GameCube and Xbox, we don't really use this. If you're saving if you want to put an image in a quest, this is not how you would do it. It's covered in a later video. So you have that. You can get your monster count right here. So we have 17 boomas that we copy and pasted. Keep in mind that this list starts from 0, so that's why it only says 16. Compatibility check, you can see if this quest is going to load at all, or if it's going to function on all the versions of PSO. The reason it has an X is because we don't have a script, and you need at least a function 0 to run a script. So even if you just add a simple opcode called ret, now it'll, and now also make it function 0, label 0. Now if you do the compatibility check, it'll say all good. Items list, I'm not really familiar with this, but I'm guessing this is how you add items to a quest. Again, I'm not familiar with this, so I'm not sure on that one. 3D viewer, this one's really important. So it's going to look all weird, and it's going to spawn you underneath the map in most cases when you open this. You just got to use the Q button to go forward, and then A goes backwards. And if also what works is if you click on a monster on the map, it'll go automatically to that room. Just keep in mind it may not be at the correct view when you click on it, so you gotta move around a little bit. So here we see all our boomas. They're placed, they're all facing a specific way. This is the event collision that we placed. You can't double click on this, by the way, to go into it. There's a few commands that you can use in this though to move objects. So first things first, if you wanted to move a booma, let's say, just click on it and then hold the control button and just move your mouse around. All right. Let's say we wanted to make a probe in this room, like a crash probe, one of these things, right? You can, if you don't want it to face this way, if you hold the Y key on your computer and click on the object, you can rotate it on the Y axis. Okay. You can also do the same thing on the Z axis by holding the Z key. And you can also do the same thing on the X axis as well. So you can really kind of move objects in a certain way. You can't obviously rotate a monster on the X or Z axis. You can only rotate it on the Y axis. See? So just keep that in mind. Another thing too, if you want to raise an object or a monster in the air or lower it, click on a monster or an object, hold the shift key, and just drag up and down. And if you look on the top here, it'll actually tell you what the X, Y, and Z of this monster is while we're moving it, so that's really nifty. Additionally, if you want it, let's say this is moving too fast or too slow for you, if you scroll down on your mouse wheel, you can lower or raise the speed. So I'm lowering, 100 is the slowest, so see how slow this is? But if you raise it to like 800, look how fast this moves. So you got to find a happy medium if you are only looking in, a small room. So just keep that in mind. That is most of what the 3D viewer can do. You can also change the setup of it. So if you want to make the window bigger, you can definitely do that. I believe if you wanted to increase the size of this and use anti-aliasing, any of these options, I believe if you save, yeah, these won't be active until you restart the program. So just keep that in mind. So I think that's it for the 3D viewer. About, you have a bunch of information here on who made Qedit and who's updating it, so on and so forth. There's a help as well. If you want to open the Qedit Wiki, you have all this information here. What's really helpful is the opcode page when you go to script. Every opcode is listed here. They may not have pages filled out, but they're all listed here. And then you have objects and enemies listed here as well. Room placement. This is kind of important. When you're placing objects or monsters, if you want them to be in a specific room, let's just say caves. Let's say you want to put monsters in room 10 here, but sometimes when you place objects on kind of on the edge of a room, it'll count it as a different room. So just keep that in mind. So let's say we want to place stuff in object in room number 10. Even if you place something like way over here, like outside the room clearly, it'll still be considered room 10. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, this is kind of finicky here too. So let's say I put it on auto, and then let's say I copy and paste this monster and put it here. It's still room 10, but let's say you want to move it even like almost to the edge of the room, like right here. It's still room 10. This isn't a good example, but there are some rooms that have very weird room boundaries. Forest is one of them. So you want to keep that in mind. Pretty much covers all base functionality in the program. If you have questions or comments, feel free to ask them in the comments section. What I will leave in the description is the Qedit Discord in case you want to ask questions there. And I'll also put in the Qedit Wiki website in the description as well. Take care and have a good day.